In New Bedford, as we take a look at our People's Credit Union SkyCam network, the roads are just wet at the moment, but there are some secondary roads that aren't necessarily treated that are still snow covered this morning. Currently 27 degrees in New Bedford, and we're tracking those cold temperatures across the region, but we're starting to see a little bit of that rain snow line inch its way a little bit closer to the south coast. For the most part, we're tracking some lighter snow coming down through the northern half of the state. It's just the immediate coastline where it's a little bit steadier at the moment, along with some of those steadier pockets that have moved their way further east into Plymouth County, Massachusetts. I do want to flip on a different radar product called the correlation coefficient. This is what we use to kind of track that rain snow line. The radar is kind of measuring the different types of precipitation where it's all kind of uniform red. That's where it's one type of precipitation. So snow across right now Rhode Island and Bristol County, Massachusetts. Where it's this brighter yellow and green, that's where the radar is kind of picking up multiple different types of precipitation. So that rain snow line continued to inch its way a little bit further north, and you might be asking, why is it changing over to a mixed precipitation if those temperatures along the coastline are still in the 20s? Well, what's going on right now is we're having a little bit of a surge of some warmer air aloft with some cold air coming down from the north. So when you take a side angle of the atmosphere, that cold air is still at the surface because it's more dense than the warmer air that is riding up and over it. The warmer air, though, is just enough to change over that precipitation. So this morning it's been basically 32 or colder through the entire column of the atmosphere. And now what we're starting to see is about maybe 1,000 to 2,000 feet aloft, a little bit warmer of a pocket of air. That's melting a lot of those snowflakes before they refreeze as they make it way down to the surface, and we'll continue to trend our way to warmer columns of air as we go through the rest of the morning, with the majority of the region observing all rain by later on this afternoon. Widespread 1 to 3, so nothing has really changed with snowfall totals. Most of the snowfall accumulation going to be done within the next 2 hours or so. By about 9 o'clock, we're expecting those totals to really be kind of cut off at what they are on the ground. As we go forward, like I just mentioned, we're going to continue to see that transition over to the wintry mix. By about 11 o'clock or so, maybe just the northern portion of Rhode Island and Bristol County, Massachusetts, still holding on to a couple of snowflakes, but most of us are observing a wintry mix or just plain rain out towards South Bristol County there. By noontime, the snow is out of the region, and we're stuck over with the plain rain with those temperatures above freezing. Some of the snowfall totals out towards maybe New Bedford and also portions of the Cape of the Island likely going to wash away with those temperatures close to 40 and also that rain coming down. Northwest corner of Rhode Island, that's where we're going to be concerned because those temperatures will be below freezing for the majority of the day, leading to that potential for some pockets of freezing rain as we go forward and evening into the evening commute there. So that could lead to, again, maybe a little bit of a glazing of ice on some of the roadways and some slick spots and icy spots for the way home tonight. All the precipitation is going to be out by 7, and then after about 9 o'clock or so, we're going to be clearing out. Tomorrow morning is going to be cold. Temperatures starting off in the teens, so be ready. If there's any wet roadways, they could become icy once again for tomorrow morning, so give yourself just a little bit of extra time there too. 10-day forecast is going to be cold as we go forward. Temperatures bottoming out on Saturday. Take a look at this, though. It is going to be breezy too, and when you factor in the wind, you're going to have those wind chill values hovering a few degrees on either side of zero most likely on Saturday morning. Thankfully, there's some relief on the way. If you're not a big fan of this weather, it's going to be next Monday when those temperatures return to above average levels.
First check of your Storm Team 10 forecast with meteorologist Jason Doris, who is live at Flo's Clam Shack in Middletown. How is it out there, Jason?
Things are great out here, Barbara. I know I took the tough assignment today of having to deliver the forecast here at beautiful Flo's Clam Shack in Middletown. Beaches are packed, we have plenty of sunshine, and we're starting to feel a little bit more of that refreshing breeze here too in Middletown, right along the water. And really that's going to be the main theme of today. If you can, maybe leave work a little bit early, enjoy some of this beautiful weather, because today is going to be one of the best days that we do have on the 10-day forecast. But let's take a look at some of the temperatures that we do have across the area this afternoon. We are seeing the 70s and 80s on the board, widespread across Rhode Island and Bristol County, Massachusetts, but you can start to see a little bit of that influence with that southwest wind there, with some of those warmer locations being in northern Bristol County, a little bit cooler the further south and west you actually are going. The big thing with today, though, those dew points still nice and comfortable, only in the 50s at the moment. As we go forward through our holiday weekend, we're going to start to see those dew points creeping up a little bit, and that will also be increasing our chance too for maybe a little bit of precipitation. But here along the coastline, our little clam forecast that we got for you, temperatures should be right around 78 this afternoon, with that breeze picking up just a little bit more as we go through today, and should be a beautiful sunset down here. And that's going to lead into a beautiful night for those fireworks. We're expecting those temperatures across the area to be right around 70 degrees at 9 o'clock when a lot of those shows are starting up, and we should have some nice pleasant conditions in store there. But as we go forward, we're also going to be increasing the chance for precipitation, like I I just talked about. So I'll break that down for you a little bit more coming up in just a little bit. Barb? Back here locally, we are tracking that heavy rain that is moving through the region. We can see this line of downpours that is creating some very heavy rainfall rates and also likely some difficult travel underneath this band due to the reduced visibility as that sun begins to set. Things are getting darker, and then the ponding on the roadways that this is likely creating. We do have a special weather statement that the National Weather Service did just put out for the Providence area, as they're expecting the potential for some flooding, especially in the areas of poor drainage in and around the capital city. But I also want to point out just a little bit of this drier air to our south right now. We can see some breaks in the precipitation shield that will eventually kind of get pushed off to the east as this line continues to move off to the east. But associated with some of this drier air and some lighter rain is what we call some subsidence, or some sinking in the atmosphere. And that's what's creating some gusty winds along our south coast right now. We can see the radar velocity scans that we're seeing coming out of Taunton right now are indicating not too far off the ground there are some gusts up to about 60-70 miles an hour. Now, not necessarily reaching the ground at that strength, probably around 40 to 50 miles an hour, but right here is where we're expecting some of the highest velocities and the highest wind gusts. This is going to be moving up and into the New Bedford area fairly shortly. So take a look at this, some of the current wind gusts. Newport right now at its strongest, 45 miles an hour, 38 in New Bedford, 36 in both Westerly and Block Island. So once that line of downpours clears the region, we're expecting less wind with regards to out of the south, but still a little bit from the north. We can see the lights are shaking because of the wind as we take a look at our People's Credit Union Sky Cam Network live at the Coast Guard House Restaurant. But I also want to point out a little bit of the splash over. You can kind of see that too in the corner that's ongoing right now as those waves are crashing. We're approaching high tide right now, still about 45 minutes away, but as we still have that onshore flow out of the southeast, we're expecting to have the potential for borderline coastal flooding in some areas. So do be aware of that if you live along the shoreline. We can see a lot of our coastal gauges are going to be in that yellow category, which is the near flood stage, besides maybe Quonset Point, which is expected to be cresting just into the minor flood stage. I want to also talk about some of the main stem rivers across the area. Those will be rising into minor flood stage as we move into tomorrow. The Patuxent is expected by tomorrow afternoon reaching moderate flood stage. Now, that will lead to maybe some localized areas that could still experience some impacts with regards to the river flooding. We'll have some more details on that as we go into tomorrow. But additional rainfall as this moves through the area, that line of downpours still could pick up maybe a half-inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch of rainfall out of that along our south coast and just off to the north and west of that downpour. We're only expecting maybe about another 1/4 inch. But as we can see here, model moves that out pretty quickly. By about 10 o'clock or so, we're starting to see some drying conditions across the area. That will continue to be the case on Sunday, but that wind will be out of the north. That's going to hold our temperatures at bay, so it is going to be a cold day overall, even though we're seeing maybe a few peaks of blue sky overhead with a little bit more cloud cover the further east you are. Temperatures really not going to be all that nice. They're going to be about 10 degrees below average for this time of year, struggling to hit 40 degrees for many inland communities tomorrow. So it's going to take a while, even though we're drier, to finally start to see some more spring-like temperatures, but we'll eventually see that by Wednesday, but that will be associated with a little bit of rain. So unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until maybe next weekend, Molly, before we can have the combination of the two here present with us.
All right.
Right here with our Sunday Science, we're going to be combining two of my favorite things, baseball and also the weather, specifically focusing in on how temperature affects the travel of a baseball. Now, when we have some cold air in place, the baseball doesn't actually travel as far. So you might hear the broadcasters kind of talk over the next month or so and be like, oh, if that baseball was hit in July, that would have been a home run. And the reason for that is there's actually a little bit of science for it. And it's because when we have cold and dry air in place, typically similar to what we see during the month of April, it's made up of mostly nitrogen, and nitrogen is typically a heavier atomic mass, which means the air is more dense and there's more resistance moving against a baseball during its time of flight. When it's hot and humid out, there's more water vapor in the atmosphere, and that is kind of replacing some of the nitrogen. The water vapor actually has a lighter atomic mass compared to nitrogen, meaning the air is less dense. Even though it might feel heavier to us, it's actually a little bit less resistance on the baseball as it travels. And for every 10 degrees of warming compared from April to July, that's usually an additional 3 feet the baseball can travel. So when the broadcasters are again talking about that, the baseball traveling further in the summer months, there's actually a little bit of truth behind that. Liz? Thank you very much, Kristen. You're going to need the sunglasses as you're heading out the door this morning, and we're expecting plenty of sunshine overhead as we go forward, so it should be a relatively nice day across the area. We just have to get through the next couple of hours with those cold temperatures across the area. Currently do have that freeze warning in place, but let's focus on the positives. Right on cue, that sun is coming up above the horizon as we take a look at our brand new People's Credit Union Skycam network here in Jamestown at Beavertail Lighthouse, courtesy of Speedcraft Auto Group here. A beautiful scene again as that sun is coming up across the portion of southern Newport right there. Temperatures in Jamestown 32 degrees. We have perfect visibility this morning and also some nice calm winds, and those calm winds and clear skies have really helped us cool off efficiently, and that is why those temperatures are currently in the 20s and 30s widespread across the region, and we will continue to deal with those cold conditions probably for just a little bit longer before we finally have that sunshine heating us up quite nicely. High pressure is going to be remaining in charge as we go forward through our Friday as it kind of dances around the northeast here, so it should be quite pleasant. Even as we go into this evening, just be aware of those temperatures tumbling down pretty quickly as that sun begins to set. So if you do have any dinner plans tonight, you're definitely going to want that jacket still. Another cold morning on Saturday. This will be our final cold morning. Don't be surprised if later on this afternoon you get another form of either a frost advisory or a freeze warning issued by the National Weather Service, just because of those temperatures dropping back down once again. But those cold temperatures will disappear by the afternoon, giving way to more seasonal weather and also a little bit more sunshine before some upper level clouds start to wander into the picture right around sunset. That's going to be associated with this weak wave of moisture that tries to move into the northeast here. We can see maybe a couple of spotty rain showers pre-dawn on Sunday, but really much of Sunday should be dry, besides maybe a batch of quick passing showers that might only last maybe an hour or two, and then more sunshine in the afternoon. It should be a pretty nice second half of the day. Tulip farms again are open across the area. Today is going to be the day. Plenty of sunshine, and again with all that sun and less wind in place across much of the area, should feel pretty nice even with those cooler than average temperatures. Saturday overall still pleasant and sunny, and then as we move into Sunday, might want to hold off until maybe the afternoon when that sunshine is emerging across the area to head to some of those flower and tulip farms. As we can see, temperatures on Saturday morning, this is what I was just talking about, especially out towards portions of Bristol County, Massachusetts, where we're typically a little bit cooler. Those temperatures might be back below freezing, and so that's why we could have that freeze warning issued once again from the National Weather Service. By the afternoon, though, those temperatures rebound quite nicely. We're going to see the mid 60s inland, a little bit cooler along the coastline as we're going to have more of an influence from that sea breeze. As we go into Sunday, those temperatures again outside of 295 should be pretty pleasant, and then the further east you are across Massachusetts, the cooler it will get just because of that wind direction once again coming in off the water. But all eyes are on the beginning part of next week, as in the upper levels of the atmosphere we're going to have a high pressure building in over the east coast. This is going to lead to some mild weather across the area and the return of some above average temperatures that all of us are going to be able to enjoy, and that is reflected on the 10-day forecast here. So as we take a look, we can see overall a pretty nice stretch of weather, some drier weather compared to what we've been dealing with for most of this month, and also those temperatures on Monday, 70 degrees, should be beautiful.